Welcome back to episode 10, the final episode of season 5 of the Microvlog.
Hopefully.
So we've been covering a lot about sustainability reporting.
Oh yeah.
And we've got a lot of companies out there setting ambitious targets to become carbon neutral.
Absolutely.
I'm curious, Mike, how does the supply chain play a role in all of this?
That's a great question. So we've seen this, and probably the easiest example to just point to is General Motors. So they've gone carbon neutral by 2040 and all EV by 2035. And we were on a symposium that they were putting on a couple weeks ago, and they mentioned that for every ton of carbon that General Motors emits, their supply chain emits 11 tons. So there's basically a factor of 11 times more carbon being emitted in the supply chain. And they openly acknowledged if we're gonna hit our goals, we need the supply chain to come along with us. And this is, I mean, that's an easy example to point to, but you can see this in Target and Walmart. You can see this in the furniture industry. You can see this in a lot of industries that have kind of a tiered supply chain where they're pulling goods up into where they're selling them. And so what we're finding is exactly around sustainability reporting and being able to talk about your benefit. We're moving to, if you're gonna be a good supplier, it's not so much about, can I get something there quickly and reliably and at a low cost? Certainly those are all still major considerations, but we're in a world now where another major consideration is how much carbon is your organization emitting and how are you aligning your organization with these organizations that live higher up the food chain. So again, if you're a OEM, which is an original equipment manufacturer like again a Ford or a GM, you're going to want to do business with companies in the supply chain that say, hey, we set the same goals and we're gonna reach those goals and we're gonna be able to help empower you to get where you're also trying to go. So it's an interesting world where I think there's going to be a pretty big shift. It's happening gradually, but there's gonna be a shift from, I want it as cheap as possible. I don't care where it comes from. I don't care about anything else. I just want it cheap and I want it when I can get it.
Sure.
And instead, there's going to be more considerations when it comes to purchasing at these big companies. And frankly, this was all championed by our friends at Walmart. So interestingly enough, you might not think Walmart's the most progressive company, but they did this 15 years ago with laundry detergent. They mandated concentrated laundry detergent. And after that, none of the major Tide and the other major laundry detergent manufacturers only make concentrated detergents, and that saves hundreds of millions of gallons of water.
Wow.
Which is a big deal for consumers.
Yeah, and how does this relate to Scope 3 emissions?
Scope 3 emissions, oh my goodness. So it relates because if you are General Motors, all of your tiered suppliers are technically Scope 3 emissions. We've gone through this in previous seasons, so you should check it out, but Scope 1 and 2s are the ones you can control, and Scope 3 are those supply chain ones.
Got it.
So that's why you gotta keep your eye on those.
All right, there you go. Final episode of season 5.
We'll see you next season.
Cheers, Mike.
Cheers, bye. That's pretty much gold, I would say. And that's a wrap. It's Christmas gold. All right, back to work.